Hello and welcome to this nostalgic retrospective look back at what's inside this vintage issue of Smash Hits magazine from 1984. I'm Retro Steve UK and today we'll be casting our minds back to teenage memories of singers and bands from that time and of the fortnightly magazine that kept us up to date on the latest pop gossip and song lyrics plus vintage ads, pin-ups and posters galore. We'll be going page by page and in high definition, so you can pause at any time for a closer inspection. And remember, you can skip around to different parts of the video by using the chapter markers that I've placed along the video timeline. So brace yourselves once again for another step into our YouTube time machine as we travel back to the world of pop music in March 1984. This 72-page magazine starts with page 1, the front cover, featuring Paul Young in the main photo, and entices us in with promises of content including the Thompson twins, Van Halen, Kajagoogoo and Depeche Mode. At the very top we can see the price at the time was 40p or 66p in Ireland. A modern equivalent now in 2024 will set you back about £6 for a monthly publication, so about £1.40 a week. There's also a free Panini sticker album included with this issue, plus 6 packs of stickers, as shown along the red bar above Paul Young's head. I don't have that album, but I can show you a picture on screen of what it looked like. Turning over reveals our first pin-up page, and it's Robert Smith from The Cure. The contents page on the right here gives us a nice overview of what to find and on which pages. We also get to see here in the top right what the sticker packets look like, with this example showing Simon Le Bon. The pictures on the packets varied, but they all followed this template, with photos of different pop stars on the front. Over on page 4 there's a full-page ad for the Style Council's debut album, Café Bleu, from Polydor Records. Unfortunately, a page has been ripped out here, but thanks to the Internet Archive, we can take a look at the missing pages, and I've posted a link to the archive in the description. Page 5 consists of 2 columns. The first is a personal fact file and interview with Nena, who recorded 99 Red Balloons. The second column reveals the lyrics to Bananarama's hit single Robert De Niro's Waiting. Page 6 contains an article called Mutterings, which details some random facts and gossip from the pop music scene. Back to the mag now, and on page 7, Start appears to be a general news and novelty features section with photos from Radio 1's Leap Year Night Out Disco show, which was held to raise money for Variety Club's Sunshine Coach Appeal charitable fund. In the pics we see Peter Powell dressed up as Boy George, Simon Bates as Gary Glitter, Tony Blackburn as Tracy Ullman, although I think he looks more like Rod Stewart in that get-up, and a rare picture of the now sadly deceased Janice Long sharing a laugh on stage with Peter Powell. Down below are some pics of members of the general public on Carnaby Street modelling a new style of hat called a pyramid lid. The accompanying text explains that these were being given away as prizes in the competition on this page, along with some Africa Bambaataa 12-inch singles. Another advert on the next page for Thomas Dolby's new single I Scare Myself. I'd never heard of him or this song, so I looked it up and it turns out he recorded the 80s classic She Blinded Me With Science, which I had definitely heard of. Over on the right, a full page pic of Shakin Stevens along with the lyrics from his song A Love Worth Waiting For. Next we have a double page spread on pages 9 and 10 covering Paul Young's live tour in Germany. We get pics from backstage and some scenes from the live show, and the article details the comings and goings of Paul and his band and some sound bites and quotes from interviews with them. The next page has 2 columns of song lyrics, Birds Fly by the Icicle Works and Michael Jackson's Pretty Young Thing, and over on the right another full page advert, this time for Howard Jones's debut album Human Lib, along with a list of tour dates. The album was released in the same month as this magazine and ended up spending 57 weeks in the UK charts. Also worth noting the mention down the bottom of a release on compact disc. Ooh, fancy. We'll need to turn our heads to one side to appreciate this next advert. It's for the song AC/DC by Jeffrey Daniel from the show Starlight Express, which is being released on 7 and 12-inch singles. Get Smart on the right-hand page is a series of music-related questions sent in by readers, including one from Angela in Grimsby, who wants to know if there's a Gary Glitter Greatest Hits album. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I'm sure Angela probably feels differently now. And it's interesting to see him referred to as the Tinfoil Terror and the Baco Foil Bulk. It's almost as if they had a sixth sense about him before all the cases of abuse came to light. Over on page 16 we have another vertical split, an advert for Carmel's second album, The Drum Is Everything, plus a few tour dates, and lyrics for Hitler Rap Part 1 from the Mel Brooks film To Be or Not To Be. The next page has been sliced up, as you can see here, and I'm curious as to what it was the original owner wanted to cut out and keep, so again we'll take a look at the digital versions. Page 17 reveals all, and we can now see it was a promo for Madonna's Lucky Star that was floating the original owner's boat, alongside lyrics for Swimming Horses by Siouxsie and the Banshees. Page 18 is a full-page ad from John Menzies, promoting a few albums, but mainly the Style Council's Café Bleu. I remember the John Menzies in my town back in the 1980s. It was a newsagent mainly, but they also sold music and video games. It was kind of a cross between WH Smith's and Woolworths. Page 19 is a nice combination of the lyrics from Sade's Your Love Is King, alongside a question and answer interview with the star herself. This page would have made a nice little pin-up for fans of Sade at the time. Pages 20 and 21 are a smorgasbord of news and info called Bitz. You can pause and read it all for yourself if you're curious, but to pick out a few examples, we have info about Nelson Mandela and the special AKA's record about him, contact details for the Madness fan club, an article on the Grammy Awards, news about upcoming record releases and tour dates, an interview with Noddy Holder from Slade, or is that Sade? Who knows. We have info and a competition relating to Michael Jackson's upcoming epic music video Thriller, and a list of birthdays in March of various pop stars and famous band members. More song lyrics on page 22 with James Ingram's Yamo Be There, and more from Carmel. And on page 23 on the right here, a full page ad for Virgin record stores, featuring another mention for the Style Council's debut album Café Bleu. I remember visiting Virgin's London megastore in Oxford Street, but that's long gone now. Virgin megastores were sold off and rebranded to Zavvi in 2007, and by 2008, Zavvi was gone as well. This next one made my day. I love a good Woolies advert. This full page ad is for records and tapes at Woolworths, with an A to Z list of some of the bargain albums available for £2.69, and a few album covers thrown in for decoration. Singles are reviewed on the next page by Smash Hits journalist Peter Martin. If you can see any favourites here, shout them out in the comments. For me, there are two standouts. Nelson Mandela by the Special AKA, because I really love African music, and That's the Way I Like It by Dead or Alive, mainly because that was one of my sister's favourite bands, and their songs just transport me right back to my childhood days. On page 26 there's a full page ad for Computer Choice magazine, and ironically, judging from the description of its content shown here, it looks like it might have potential for another What's Inside video. I might have to add that to my brainstorm list. And page 27 is split in two, with album reviews on its left side by various people, including Peter Martin again, and lyrics for Depeche Mode's People Are People down the right hand side. We get a double page spread next on pages 28 and 9 with an article dedicated to heavy metal legends Van Halen. There's some history and a few anecdotes, quite interesting stuff, particularly if you're a fan of the band, and there's a nice big photo of the band members on the right. The next two pages are basically a massive double spread advert for Wrangler jeans. Not exactly pin-up material, but there is a funny joke nestled in the speech bubbles that I'll admit took me a few moments to understand. Basically, because these jeans stretch, they don't catch your goo-goos. A bit rude I know, but kind of in keeping with the magazine's laid-back, slightly irreverent style. We get a short article with a big picture on page 32 of new wave pop band Fiat Lux, which apparently means let there be light in Latin. The article is basically a collection of light-hearted quotes from the band and information about them, including why they chose their name. Page 33 is an advert promoting the debut album from Nena, which contains their most famous song, 99 Red Balloons, also known as 99 Luftballons in their native German language. Over on page 34, an advert for the new single from Simple Minds, and another for the John Lennon single, Borrowed Time. Quite poignant and a little ironic, that one, as he wrote it in the same year as his death in 1980. We get a crossword puzzle on page 35, which as you can see has been partially filled in already by the original owner of this magazine. Under the puzzle, another advert for David Essex's new single, Fishing for the Moon. The next page is a simple but rather eye-catching advert for the Special AKA's Nelson Mandela. I'd actually like this page up on the wall now, to be frank. It's a great little time capsule of the introduction of what is now an iconic piece of musical history. I'm tempted to rip it out, but I'll probably just scan and reprint it and put it up in a frame. Frankie Goes to Hollywood share their experience on page 37 of the day that Relax got to number 1 in the UK pop charts. This is a fascinating read, and I recommend taking a closer look, particularly if you're fond of the band and that particular song. Up next, Rufus and Chaka Khan are advertising their 12 inches on tape. This actually sounds like a tempting buy. 5 12-inch records on cassette for the price of one 12-inch vinyl. Sounds like a great collection. Next to that, another puzzle. A word search this time which hasn't been defaced with a biro yet, so knock yourself out if you want to give it a try. Answers on page 52. On the right hand page, Boy George, looking at his absolute peak, is advertising Culture Club's latest single, It's a Miracle. Worth mentioning the faint wording next to Boy George's head as well. It's not part of the advert, it's the red ink from the opposite page, pressed on from the pen that was used to fill in the crossword from 4 pages ago. Centre pages now, which means we're halfway through, and perhaps the main event, a pull-out double poster of all 3 of the Thompson twins. Would you have stuck this up on your bedroom wall back in the day? A C&A advert over the page, specifically promoting their 10 to teens clothing range, and on the right another split column page with an ad for Hey from the band Elastica, and the lyrics for the one-hit wonder It's Raining Men by the Weather Girls. More ads on page 44 and 45. Robin Gibb is promoting his second solo album How Old Are You, and synth pop band Academy with an ad for their debut single On the Beach. Soft Cell's album The Last Night in Sodom gets an advert in the bottom right here, underneath a slightly alarming section called RSVP. I initially thought this was a letters page, but quickly realised it's a list of the home addresses of kids that have written into the magazine looking for people to write to. This just would not happen now, can you imagine? Here's an example.
I'm a 12-year-old boy and mad about Culture Club and Wham. I dislike Duran Duran, Status Quo and heavy metal. Send pics if possible to John.
Bloody hell. Knowing what we know now, with hindsight, this section is truly alarming. Different times. Over on page 46, HMV has a full-page ad for Prefab Sprouts' album Swoon, which they're selling for £3.99. Interestingly, HMV is one of those stores that is still around today, and there are over 100 stores still operating in the United Kingdom in 2024. Over on the right, Smash Hits has teamed up with KP for a competition to win a family holiday in Amsterdam, known for windmills, tulips and other things. The prize includes hotel accommodation and £100 spending money, plus the top 40 singles of the week thrown in for good measure. 10 runners-up get the top 10 singles from that week, and a case of Hula Hoops crisps. One catch though, you have to get your newsagent to sign the form to certify you have a regular standing order for Smash Hits. On the plus side, the newsagent gets a free holiday too if you win. Nice. We got Cooking with Confidence next, a double page spread with Nick and Steve from Kajagoogoo, showing us how they cook a vegetarian meal. This is kind of a cross between a recipe page and a picture strip, and really just a bit of throwaway fun. I have to admit though, that picture of the tray of food in the bottom left looks quite nice, and I'm not normally a fan of veggie dishes. Cult 1980s band Borgie Borgie make an appearance on page 50. Now I hadn't heard of these guys, but apparently they released 2 singles in 1984, so not quite one-hit wonders, but still a fairly short-lived band. I looked up their song Breaking Point and I think they sound a little bit like Aha, but if you can imagine the lead singer being replaced by a Billy Idol impressionist. On page 51, Siouxsie and the Banshees have a full-page advert for their new single Swimming Horses, which comes with a free full-colour poster and a bonus track if you buy the 12-inch. A bit of a mishmash on page 52 as it's an info and small ads page. In addition to the puzzle solutions, contact info, competition results and staff credits, we get adverts for the Paul Young fan club and merchandise, a David Bowie magazine called Star Zone, and the new single by Julian Cope from The Teardrop Explodes. Also worth pointing out, Neil Tennant from the Pet Shop Boys listed in the credits here. He was a journalist and assistant editor for the magazine back in the mid-1980s. On page 53, more song lyrics, Breaking Down by Julia and Company, and an advert for The Politics of Dancing, a single from the new wave 80s band Reflex. The XDR cassette format mentioned here stood for Expanded Dynamic Range, and XDR was a technique used in the recording process, which was supposed to improve the sound quality of normal cassettes. There's a double-page Bananarama article on page 54 interviewing the ladies about their struggles with fame and life in the music industry. It's a very sensitive article and provides some eye-opening insights into the real people behind the faces that we see portrayed on programs like Top of the Pops. The second page of the article is a full-colour picture of Karen, Siobhan and Sarah. This one conjures up major nostalgia for me. I love anything to do with cassettes. This is an ad for Sharp QT12 portable radio cassette players. I won't call it a boombox, although it'll undoubtedly be miles better than any of the crap you can buy these days. The few modern cassette players you can get now just don't cut the mustard at all. You can still buy these, but they'll set you back around £70 on eBay for a working model. An ad for another mag on page 58, Just 17, was a girls' magazine, and I remember my sister used to buy this regularly when she was about 14. I think it was aimed at that age range though, so it makes sense. This issue comes with a free personal wristband. I think those were quite fashionable to wear at the time. Next to that we get the lyrics to the theme tune from the Fraggle Rock TV show. Bit odd this one, as it's not exactly difficult to understand those lyrics when you're watching the show. Page 59 has two more vertical column ads, one for Jermaine Stewart's latest release, and the other a combined advert for vinyl singles at various stores, including Woolworths. The article on the next two-page spread is called Nights Out. It's a list of dates for upcoming gigs and concerts, and some reviews of concerts that have already been performed by Thomas Dolby in London, Genesis in Birmingham, and Dead or Alive in Sheffield. The reviews share the writer's thoughts on the venues, support acts, and the headliners. The full-page ad over on page 62 urges us to take a motorcycle training course before attempting to pass the motorcycle test. Apparently it can help increase your chances of passing, and help reduce the chances of wrapping yourself around a lamppost. Sounds like a no-brainer. On the right, more lyrics with Alexis Howell's "Hello John, got a new mo." Absolute classic track that. And "Hello" by Lionel Richie. An interview over the page here provides some insights into the inner workings of the band Depeche Mode. We learn about their favourite cars, holidays and clothes, and get a deeper dive into some of their hobbies, habits and lunchtime routines. Potentially boring stuff, but this is Depeche Mode, so perhaps potentially interesting if you like the band. A super little advert for Atari's Dig Dug over on page 66 with a short cartoon strip featuring characters from the game, and a promise that the story will continue in-game if you buy the cartridge for Atari 2600 home gaming systems. $29.99 originally. Now, if you have an Atari to play it on, it'll be about the same amount for a boxed copy on eBay. Page 67, the letters page, which is a mix of people's music-related observations and whimsical, nonsensical missives, allegedly from readers of the magazine. This section continues over the page, accompanied by two half-page adverts. On the left, an ad for Fiction Factory's Ghost of Love dance mix on 12-inch vinyl, and on the right, a new single from rock band The Alarm, The Deceiver. A four-way split on page 70 gives us adverts for Let the Music Play, an album from singer-songwriter Shannon, a pop-star t-shirt company Star Prints based in Leicester, Michael Jackson photos and posters from Dick Wallace Photography in Watford, and more Michael Jackson stuff, posters, magazines and what seems like a mixed bag of other random junk, this time from Super Packs based in Chiswick, London. Now I'd be interested in hearing from anyone who ordered one of these Super Packs. Was it worth the £3 being asked, and what did you think of what you received? The inside back cover here on the right finishes off with the lyrics from that Fiction Factory song Ghost of Love, and a final panel detailing next week's free gift, more free stickers for the album that they were giving away this week. Now I'm actually quite enamoured with this. I was always a sucker for those Panini sticker collections. I did loads of them when the packets were only about 10p each. These days the poor kids in our current generation have to pay about £1 per packet, so to complete an album, statistically you'd have to be paying hundreds of pounds or more to complete one, as many of the purchased stickers obviously will be doubles. Better get swapping with your schoolmates then, I suppose. The back page is a pin-up poster of the band Carmel, and that marks the end of this issue of Smash Hits from the 15th to the 28th of March 1984. So there it is. Now, I used to buy Smash Hits when I was about 13 in 1987. For context, that's around about the time Kylie Minogue was first hitting the UK charts, and yes, she was one of the pin-ups on my bedroom wall back then, a pin-up that I cut out from an issue of Smash Hits. The main reason I used to buy the mag though was for song lyrics. Loads of songs in the charts at the time had lyrics that were indecipherable, and without anything resembling an internet, these magazines really were the only way we could find out what those mumbling pop singers were actually banging on about. Sadly, I never kept any of my original issues, so I bought this one on eBay specifically for doing this video. I initially tried to bid on a job lot of 14 Smash Hits magazines, but shockingly the batch ended up going for over £80. In the end, this individual one cost me £8.95 plus £4.95 postage. And this seems to be about the going rate, so if you're after a copy for yourself, that's about the price you can expect to pay. Now, I'll be covering more retro publications in future videos, so if there are any old magazines and such that you'd like to see featured, post them in the comments. I'm always open to suggestions, and I'll happily add your requests to my brainstorm list for future consideration. I asked you lot on social media and in the community post section of my YouTube channel for your thoughts about some of the contents of this magazine and about Smash Hits in general, and this is what some of you had to say. Who Takes the Socks Off podcast on Bluesky Social has a stack of 80s and 90s Smash Hits magazines at home and believes they were necessary reading at the time. Over in the community post section of my YouTube channel, Liam Greer's older sister used to read smash hits, so he used to receive hand-me-down posters of singers to put up in his room, anything his sister didn't want, unless of course there was a boy band on the reverse side. He'd also receive unwanted free gifts from the mag too, so had the occasional pop act sticker or fold-up poster on his wall. Andrei Tupolev noted 1 or 2 points of interest, citing Lionel Richie's Hello as a classic in anyone's book, as well as Madonna's Lucky Star, which was a good year before she really became big in the UK, so the singles reviewer Peter Martin could claim credit for being well ahead of the curve. And finally, Bretsky777 only bought 1 issue of Smash Hits, but was able to read copies that belonged to a friend. The one he did purchase had a double-sized poster of Madonna, which took pride of place on his wardrobe door. Bretsky's favourite part of Smash Hits was being able to read printed song lyrics from his favourite songs from the pop charts. If you have anything to share about any of the contents of this magazine or Smash Hits in general, post them in the comments and we can have a natter. And if you want to be featured in a future Retrospectives video, follow me on my various social media platforms, where I'll be asking for comments whenever I'm working on something new. I also have a Buy Me a Coffee tip jar if you'd like to say thanks with a small gesture. You'll find all the links in the video description. Well, that's your lot for now, but before we finish off, I'd like to thank everyone who shared their comments, to thank you for liking and subscribing, and of course to thank you all for watching Retrospectives.